Three, two, one. We are live. All right. Welcome back to another episode of Talking Tines here on Outdoors Obsessions, live on Facebook. Today, our guest is Josh Sparks from Drury Outdoors TV. Josh is a man with the camera, a man with the editing. He is by far one of the best that I've seen and something that I've always idolized. Uh, in brief, for those that don't know you, Josh, why don't you go ahead and give them a quick rundown of who you are and what you do over there at Drury Outdoors?
Well, as you heard from Joe, my name's Josh, live in Iowa. My main responsibilities at Drury Outdoors are basically all on the production side. During the fall, do a series called Deer Season 21 with a couple of other editors that are down in the St. Louis office. But that's our version of the semi-live series, and it was very, very fun, inaugural year to do that. When get the chance to run a camera, love to do that as well, and then in between get to do some hunting here and there. So this time of the year, working on Bow Madness, which has been a pleasure. It's been a big learning curve. Television is very, very different than the web series or just digital in general. So that is what I'm navigating through right now. Very excited. Get to work with a lot of cool guys.
I don't mean to cut you off there, but as you can probably hear, Miss Gigglesworth, my oldest daughter, in the background here, she's holding up the sign.
Hey,
It says, before pitching, will you take me to get chicken nuggets? You're going to be live on Facebook in front of millions of people, bro.
Will you?
Please.
yes, no.
Maybe.
I love you.
Bounce. I love you.
Have a good show, guys.
Oh, thanks, kiddo. Kids, man. That was so rude. I apologize. But
All good.
dude, that's crazy, man. Your line of work is absolutely demanding and incredible all at the same time. When it comes down to producing uh, TV, you and we had touched base on this a little bit a few days prior to this, but you got like that 22-minute time slot. So now both dogs go. Dogs! Sorry, guys. Sorry, everybody. Apologize.
All good, man.
Kids and dogs.
Yeah, no, there's a very strict time limit. Um, and again, right now where I'm at in the process is just getting the roughs put together, constructing the interviews. It's it's a very finite process for sure. So
Do you I know there's a lot of gear that we could put on our camera to kind of help, stabilize on our shoulder and whatnot. But do you ever just come home at the end of the day and just kind of like rub that shoulder out?
so like this was the first year that I've never been out on ever take a tripod or a camera to the tree. The film style is a little bit more fluid. Um, and honestly, I didn't spend as many time or as many days, filming as I might have in the past or
Sure.
being in a true land. It's all good.
I'm so sorry about these dogs.
No worries at all.
I'm so sorry.
Just
So,
wants to just wants to do it.
oh man, it's crazy, dude. It's like, and unfortunately, like, it's every episode, but it's the little one that you hear, the Chihuahua.
Yeah.
So like, if you were to come over to my house, he would bark until you would leave, and then be in your pajamas and be back in bed, and that's when he would stop. The dog just go 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 go. My dog, the golden that was just here in the frame. Um, Couple quick barks, that's it, and he mellow out. I usually got yeah, that's a big boy. That's Chung's dog. Um, anyway, sorry to make you repeat yourself there, but Wash, go ahead, say what you were just saying again there, my man.
What you asked? What exactly did you ask again? You're asking
Like
about
when it comes down to like the actual like, okay, I got 22 minutes here to make 10 hours worth of footage mashed in here, right? Like what are the struggles that you find with TV, and what are the with the parameters that you got to deal with and whatnot?
I mean, I think the number one thing that has come to mind through this series is just, these guys are essentially filming an entire season's worth of footage, right? So it's very different than digital, where every time you go out, you can do something with that to its fullest, potential or effort or whatever you want to call it. Um, when it's a television show, you're trying to do justice through all that effort without leaving out parts, but still maintaining a time frame. You know what I
Right.
mean? Like, a digital series on one hunt, an episode can be 45 minutes.
Easily.
You're trying to fit an entire season with multiple kills and multiple guys into that 22 minutes while telling their story, teaching something along the way. So, that's keeping the pace going, picking the right sound bites, trying to create the outlines that are actually interesting. That's been a very big challenge because with a digital, you can just tell it how it happened. You don't have to cut out anything. You know what I'm
Right.
saying? Um, but ultimately, it's wanting to make these guys feel like the extra effort that they're putting in is worth it. You know what
Absolutely.
I mean? Because I could see it being very easy to fall into. Well, if I don't need to film this because that's never going to get shown. And like I'm always like, just film everything because the best story comes out of having every aspect to it. But
Absolutely.
I'm sure that that's a hard thing to, tell yourself every day when there inevitably there's going to be stuff that is left out. My job is to try to minimize that or to still tell the full story the way it happened.
Right.
So that's, I've never had to do that before, and that's been a learning curve to say the least. And I'm still on the curve, very much still on the curve.
Right.
So
Dude, that's absolutely incredible. Let's kind of revert over into the hunting side of things. So obviously being the cameraman and a producer and whatnot, your time is very limited to whenever you can actually get into the hot seat and whatnot. But the the clip art for this is you're holding a freaking stud of a buck, my man. So give us some insight of how that went down and how that all happened for you.
well, that was what was that, December 1st, I want to say. Number one, first thing I gotta say is thank you to Mark Drury. I mean, he's the reason why we were on that farm. To date back a little bit, I mean, I picked up a lease this year. Is the first time that I've ever had a place to hunt by myself. Um, it had a lot of really good deer on it, and quite honestly, my lack of dedication to preparing on that piece in the summertime, kind of when my job switch took place, things that I probably had the time to do, I just didn't get done, like food plot. Well, not necessarily food plot, but picking out stands, running cameras before the middle of October. Like I don't think I got cameras on the farm till like October 10th or something like that, which is very, you know, not that's not what I would do. I'm very into preparation. I think that makes a big difference.
Right.
Uh, and quite honestly, I think even just something as simple as like the tree that we knew we needed to be in. For example, we had a couple of great encounters in late November. We'd have a deer hopefully dead versus just skirting us. We were just in the wrong tree.
Sure.
So the lease was very productive. The cameras did run all year, and there's very good quality as far as the bucks go. So hopefully for 2022, that's a different story. I was able to get a food plot approved in one of the CRP sections. So, that was what most of my season was quote unquote dedicated to.
Sure.
Another property that Mark let me go hunt quite a few times and saw great deer there too. But December 1st, which you're talking about, man, that is a farm that, when Mark was like, hey, we've got two good bucks on there pretty frequently, MRI on them. Do you want to go hunt? I was like, yeah, absolutely.
Right.
And my buddy Perry, who I work with, him and I went, to the farm, and confidence was high, to say the least. I mean, we had a very good feeling we were going to see them, shoot the bow good. And I remember we hadn't sat down for 5 minutes and we saw the first deer. And I mean, one thing that was very interesting about that day is it was really warm. I mean, for December, you don't think hunting, a food source, you're going to see great movement. But one thing that Mark stuck, he said that day, I don't know if you remember, but like late November into December, it was just hot.
It was.
So kind of like, he made a comment that he expected because we had a temperature drop. Um, it wasn't a big one, but he had kind of made a comment that because it had been so consistently warm, even though it wasn't big, he expected great movement.
Right.
Well, let me put it this way: anytime that Mark makes a statement, very very often is incorrect. I mean, it's usually spot on. And that night, like I said, the movement started early, um, and then we looked down and coming out of this spot. The first there was two targets, and they walked out one after the other at 3:30. I mean, it was just like, okay, you know what I
Incredible.
mean?
Here we go.
Uh, and long story short, as the night progressed, they worked their way. So there's beans in front of us, like there's beans with an L-shaped green plot. And that's one thing again, man. Like every conversation or every hunt that I got to go on, I was so fortunate to learn a lot
Right.
with quote unquote food plot architecture, and this place exemplified that in more ways than I could ever explain. Well, there was an 8 pointer and then the 10 that I ended up shooting. Eight ended up working off, and it was just like they were just out of bow range for like 20 to 30 minutes. And it was kind of getting to that point where like my nerves had settled. I mean, it was
Mhm.
like I'd been, like, oh my gosh, for
Right.
so long that I was like, all right, I'm ready. Like if this thing comes in, good. And eventually the 10 came in for a perfect shot. I mean, like nerves were calm, cameras on him, he's standing there broadside, stops, and and two things happened that I screwed up immensely. Let's put it this way: having this deer, having a picture with him, it's all luck. I mean, I screwed up in every single way that you could. So I shoulder hit him at like
Oh no.
7. I mean, smack in the shoulder. You couldn't have placed it any worse if you tried. And there's two things, like right away, you're like, what happened? Like I had no idea because truly it was one of the only instances in my life where drawing down on the buck that I wasn't, I was good. I don't
Right.
know. Like I've never been more calm in that situation than what I was. So for it to happen that way, I was very, very disappointed in myself.
I can
But
believe it.
and that's like the beauty of like the film, like going back and trying to figure out what happened, because like it was on me, but I didn't really know. I didn't have a reason. One thing I used to do when I was younger is I'd always look up after that shot just to
Right.
see if I hit. Always do. So like I have this kind of routine now where it's like I don't even think about what's going on. I'm talking to myself like hold your spot, follow through, hold your spot, follow through. Just kind of have this mental conversation, worry about the excitement and nerves later. So, I felt like everything was good in that moment. Well, again, funny enough, Mark knew what happened before I even. He's like, go watch that GoPro and watch your grip hand. See if you grab that thing before anticipating the shot. And sure enough, it was like
Oh
for whatever
no.
reason, I just anticipated that shot and it sent it up in the shoulder. So
Right.
that, and then the other thing that I did is when I stopped him, his back right leg or his right leg was backwards,
Oh
so
sure.
his shoulder. It's just stupid mental errors that like you run this through your head for over an hour as you're out there, and I still screwed it up. I mean, it was
Right.
just like I was embarrassed because Mark was gracious enough to let me hunt his farm, and two, more importantly, like you hate to injure an animal. And quite
Right.
honestly, when we left the farm that night, I did not have any thoughts that I actually was going to, in fact, have a lethal hit on the animal. So, we backed out. We used what's called, I don't know, have you messed with deer cast at all?
I have. Yep.
So, we put it to deer cast track, and like, dude, it is such an amazing tool. I'm not saying that because I work there. It's because it's seriously something that I don't think everybody knows exists and can really help you make some educated decisions,
Right.
with all the different hits that are out there. For us, where we had hit him, it did signal that there was hope going into it the next morning.
Right.
Essentially, it was come down to a penetration issue, whether we got into the lung or the artery. And we went back that day at like, I want to say it was like 11. So just around that 15-hour mark. Because if it was a single lung, which is really all I thought we had a potential for, that's already a dicey
Very.
ending.
They
Like
live with
survive.
one lung, man. It's.
Um, but the positive was on the video, we saw blood right away. My arrow never came out. I mean, he ran a good ways, and that thing was stuck in there. So like that was where the hope lied. That was like maybe it did bust through the shoulder just enough. Luckily, I got a 29-inch draw, 70 pounds. It's gonna help some,
Right.
micro diameter arrow, and we went the next day, all blood, and he was only it was like 180 yards. I mean, from where he died, I could see the line.
Right.
I mean, it was just relieving, sick. I mean, I was just like, I was tore up about it, man. Like, it was good to know. Like, he probably, expired way faster because upon recovery, we did end up hitting single lung and what looked to be the artery
Right.
because, I mean, the amount of blood that was in him was a lot. So it was, you know, it was a roller coaster for sure. One that I learned a lot from. Um,
How far do you think you ended up tracking that guy?
like I said, it was like 180 yards. I mean,
Was it?
it was 180, 200 somewhere in there. We could literally see the blind from where he was bedded. So like that's one thing that's pretty cool. Like again, this is a scenario where like I went and hunted. You know what I mean? And the guys that I work with, Perry, Wade, Mark, they are the ones that did all this. They made a farm that was okay into a mecca. You know what I mean? And it's not a big piece,
Right.
but it was pretty sweet to see. Like one thing about that place that was very eye opening. Like Mark, like people always talk about creating bedding or TSI, etc. And I feel like sometimes maybe they do it randomly. They just say, "Oh, this looks like a good place for that. Let's create some bedding." Well,
Right.
on that piece, he was very, very intentional about where he made his bedding to increase daylight activity specifically. It was like he talked about it was like 150 yards, 200 yards off the field. Um, this buck literally died in the TSI that Perry had created.
Wow.
So he went right back to his home. So it was, one of those things where it was like I was way more lucky than I should have been. And I was very, very grateful to everybody involved. Perry running the camera, Mark letting us go there in the first place, Buddy Carson helping track. Um, you know, I can't really take credit for much of anything related to that animal
That's
other than screwing it up and learning more lessons that I. So
just goes to show you, man. You never stop. You never stop learning, and as much as and that's why as hunters and especially we're hunting with very primitive equipment. It's still a bow. It's not a round that's going at 1,200 to 1,600 feet per second. This thing it's a primitive weapon. Um, so it just goes to show everybody that even if you're hitting those 5X's every time, you know you need to practice for those shots. You need to practice out of a stand, whatnot, and for moments like that. But then when you do all that practice too, and you do something like that, it's just like, dude, like I get it, man. I mean, we've all been there. If you haven't been there, you haven't been hunting long enough. It's just the end of it, because there will be something that will happen, and you can only be so like, hey, this was dead nuts perfect, made everything happen. The shot was perfect and everything. Only a few times. There's going to be something in there that you end up messing up on. But to find your deer after doing something like that, that is the biggest weight off anybody's shoulders and a big old breather. And it's like, oh, dude, thank God.
yeah, yeah,
But
yeah. I mean, I wish there was some awesome story and I could say I did a whole lot with it. You know what I mean? But it was just a lot of fun. I mean, like I
yeah,
was a lot. Me and Harry, man, like we had a lot of fun nights in the woods together. Um, so it was for it to culminate. That was one thing. Like he spent a lot of time behind the camera for me. I was able to film him in early October. He shot a good deer in early muzzleloader, and you know, it was a fun fall overall, man.
right,
Very tight knit in that camp. I mean, it's like hunting with your family members. You know what I mean? And I, quite frankly, haven't been there that long, so
right.
it you know, there was a lot of learning this fall. I mean, that's no doubt about it, man. The that deer was kind of the cat to it, for sure.
Right.
So
Earlier we had Logan Beach says King behind the camera right there. Best there is out there for putting a story together, start to finish. Always killer work from Josh.
well, I appreciate that, but I will be the first to say that you can't make any story without killer effort from everybody involved on the teams that you're a part of. You know,
Bet.
an editor is just a small piece of the puzzle. You know, I'll never take credit for being a part of a full part of that story. I mean, it's you put all the effort in the world, but like there's a lot of people that go into giving me the ability to do the job that I have.
Right.
That's, but I appreciate it. I mean, I just
He says
everybody.
in the 2020 season, he shot a buck high. He lived, grounded him in a month later, missed him at 23 yards. Something happens to everyone eventually. Yeah, absolutely. At least you were able to get another shot on that deer, even though you missed. But I know what that's like. I missed the same deer 3 times in one day. Dude, I left the bow in the tree, and I took like a 150-yard walk, and I was like, I'm done. And then I ended up like, no, that stuff cost too much money, and then I went back and got it.
Yeah,
Dude, it was absolute mayhem. But so I know, like, when it comes down to a deer that I've shot, and I'm back home and I'm on the computer and I'm hitting the grind and I'm editing that episode, I find it, uh, almost easier, or not easier, but I find it harder to edit one of my other guys' videos, because I want to be able to capture that moment as much as possible and give them as much respect as possible, while showing the viewer as well, the best possible content that you can with everything that you were able to capture. Would you say that's probably the same for you? Or is it harder for you to edit your own stuff knowing, man, did I do this right? Did I do that right?
I think it's harder for me to edit my own stuff. Like obviously, I know the story perfectly. I was the one there that did it, right?
Right.
But you also don't want to like. For me, it's like, for example, like that episode didn't even go up. I mean, it was the one kill that we had in camp that we didn't do because I was like, I don't care. I
Right.
never did any of it so that people could watch my kills. I just like being in the tree. I like being out there hunting. That's literally the only reason. And when I say it's harder, it's because like I don't, I don't know. Like you don't want it to come off as like you put in more effort on your own thing than you did everybody else's.
Right.
Like for me, like doing other guys, like I love it. I mean, it's so much more fun for me to edit somebody else's because like I get to be a part of creating a memory that they can go back and watch over and over and over,
Right.
and way of giving back to them because like again, you'll hear me say it a lot, but like I don't have a job if there's not other people hunting and running a camera,
Right.
So like that is maybe it is a little bit more quote unquote difficult, but ideally by the time I sit down to edit something, like I already know that full story just as much as my own,
Right.
and that's just communicating with them, throughout the season. And I guess I don't know how you guys do it, but like in the semi-live world per se, like where you get consistent updates from somebody, that was always something I made a very strong point to do was to know, like for example, back when I was in Nova Whitetail, if I was working on the Heartland show, I could really, if you said there's this guy, I could tell you how many farms he had, what he called those farms, and what bucks were on them.
Mm-hmm.
I could do that for every guy because I felt like that was it's super important. Like you can't build a show that incorporates different storylines if you don't know how they fit together.
Right.
You know what I mean? That I think has really helped me, with this television because it's pretty much the same thing. You're just making 13 specifically timed episodes. Um, but I will say, obviously, I think I can edit my own stuff faster.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Absolutely.
But I can definitely do it faster just because, like I said, it's one I know exactly what happened. I know, and like over time, I'm sure that you've noticed this too. Like, if somebody wanted to become better at videography, like I get this question quite frequently, like, how could you get there? And I say, edit your own stuff.
Yeah.
There is no better way to become better at videography than to edit your own stuff
I would agree with
because
that. 100%.
you're gonna realize like, man, I thought I had everything. When you sit
Right.
down, you're like trying to make a video, and you're like, I really don't have anything,
Right.
or the audio is awful, or my shots, like, one thing, like people taking 4 or 5 second video clips.
Right.
Like it doesn't work because then how are you supposed to power it? You need more audio for that. So from that perspective, obviously, like ensuring I get everything I need takes place every time I hunt. That's even when I'm hunting, I'm still running a camera or some in some fashion,
Yep.
or I'm like my cameraman, like, hey man, are you got it? There's only one person that I've ever had run a camera for me that I really just don't even think. Well, there's two, Jared Mills when he filmed me on a public land hunt, and my buddy Caleb Griner, who I've killed a couple of good deer with. Like
Right.
Caleb, like, and that's like, man, there's nothing more valuable. It's just and I'm not saying if the other people that I film me aren't good at what they did,
Right.
but like I just know Caleb's gonna put in as much effort to capture what I would capture for him. You
Right.
know what I mean? We just have always he's one of my best friends, and we just kind of always had that relationship. So um, yeah, I don't know. I mean, I think every video has its own challenges. You know what I mean? Like the biggest challenge I think about own hunts is like I just feel like why am I doing this right now? I don't care. I want to
Right.
edit somebody else's stuff.
I want to make someone else's story happen.
Yeah, I mean, like I've got the coolest job in the world. I mean, I don't need any sort of accolades or for people to tell me congratulations. I mean, it's never been about that
Right.
for me. Yeah. I'm not saying if it is for somebody, that's a bad thing. Everybody's got something that drives them. Mine was just wanting to be in the woods as much as possible
I hear
and to
you.
stop yelled at by people for saying you hunt too much, go get a real job,
Right.
etc. So
But now your job revolves around hunting, which is like freaking sweet.
it's very, very humbling for sure. I mean, not only to do the job that I get to do, but to learn from the people that I get to learn from,
Right.
and I call the friends that I have my friends. It's there's nothing more valuable than that.
I mean, you're working with Drury Outdoors and whatnot, and Drury Outdoors is probably one of the longest TV shows and web series that has been around since you know we were able to start producing this stuff and putting it out there and whatnot. So I mean, the platform alone, or the company alone of Drury Outdoors has come a very long way. And I mean, I don't know how old you are, but we're probably about the same age. But you probably remember watching a few of their VHS tapes back in the day, or some episodes of that and whatnot. And you know, to work with a franchise that's so mature in this industry, man, is that's a big honor.
Yeah, no, I guess I'm only 25. Um,
Oh, you're a baby.
yeah, no, growing up, like uh, we did have some Bow Madness DVDs, or I guess I don't even really know what they were. It was Mark. Um, quite honestly, I never really appreciated. I always knew Mark and Terry were the top.
Right.
That was never a question in my mind that they were pioneers for the outdoor television space, hunting education specifically. Um, but it really wasn't until Mark and I started talking more in depth about the history of Drury Outdoors that I realized, dude, they started it.
Right.
I mean, if somebody's doing something right now, there's a really good chance they did it at one point. Like public land hunting, hanging hunting. Just think about like doing all these things that now is quote unquote interesting or cool. Doing it with the equipment from 30 years ago.
Right.
Like they didn't have small video cameras or compact SD cards. Like these guys were taking VHS news cameras to a
Right.
tree
These things are
and
like
hang
this
them,
big.
you know, steel stands that were not, you know what I mean? So it's just like there was a newfound appreciation for the fact that they are the ones that really paved the way for this to become a quote unquote industry,
Right.
in my opinion. Like the fact that this is a job that exists. And, like Mark has always talked about that with me and, just in the videos you watch, that it's always about helping other hunters. That's
Right.
all it's about. He wants to teach other people to be successful or to help them be successful. So, it's working for Mark's really easy. I don't know how to put that. I mean, he's easy. Seriously, it's the easiest thing about my job is getting to work for him.
That's
You know what
awesome.
I mean? You really can't ask for anything better than that. You know what I mean? So it's just a bonus when they all feel like family. You know
Right.
what I mean? That's And that's being honest. I mean, like that. We spend every single day basically together for 3.5, 4 months. You gotta love the people you're with.
Right,
You know what I mean?
right. You real
So,
quickly become, your own family, and it's just like, it's just like, and
yep,
you
yep.
you freaking send
It's
it.
humbling. I mean, it's humbling. That's all there is to it. Every day I wake up, I'm like, man, if you'd have told me this is what I'd be doing 15 years ago, I'd not believe you. So,
Right,
um, happy I am though. I can tell you that.
dude. That is probably the best way I've heard, man. But that's incredible because like growing up, I'm always like, dude, I want to be very similar. I want to be able to have a show and I want to be able to produce and whatnot. And it was one day like I just like it was just like a light switch. Like, well, no one's gonna hold my hand. If I want this, I need to go do it. And so, you talk about these steel stands and these freaking giant cameras and whatnot. Um, the guys marking them, they had to make that decision too. And thank God, my camera only weighs like not even a pound. And
Yeah,
I run I have it right here. This is my main camera, which is a DSLR with the Rode mic and whatnot. This is just the
excited.
Yep, it's the T7i EOS Rebel and whatnot. It's a great camera with a great mic, and it does not weigh near as much as those old school VHS cameras. It doesn't weigh near as much as the big Campbells and whatnot. Not that I have anything against the Campbells and whatnot. I really would like to get a Campbell, but I've got I've got that camera. I've usually got a GoPro sitting in the tree with me, and then I've got a Tacticam that usually sits on the bow. And I may or may not even have another camera rolling somewhere else. And even all of that equipment added up still doesn't weigh near as much as one stand or one camera that they used to have to roll with. And could you imagine going out in the field and you have to have a backpack just for blank VHS tapes because you never know, this thing could take 3.5 hours or 4 hours and you've only got an hour's worth of footage or worthy to put back on that VHS before you're out of tape.
Yeah, no,
That
I mean you could go down a laundry list of things that I'm very happy we don't have to do. I mean,
right,
talk about the stuff you had to use to film, talk about batteries, talk about the cost of storage, talk about having to go get your tape, converted into whatever it was that you were going to use to edit it. I mean,
right,
it it truly it's remarkable. I mean, like, and that's the cool thing now. Like in 2022, really anybody could get into it for a very affordable price.
you could, you very much could.
That's again, like I'm not. Everybody does it for different reasons, obviously, but like when we started, me and my buddies was just like just want to look back on it. It's awesome to
right,
talk about it. And you remember that book? Remember that? Yeah, let's go watch it. Like that's always been enough. I mean, like I just there's something about getting to relive those moments because there's not a whole lot of them. You know what I mean? That really
right,
take place over the course of a lifetime. That's worth every dollar and maybe missed opportunity that comes your way as a bow hunter. I mean,
right.
it's pretty. So
That's, I mean, you put it out there best, man. It's absolutely amazing. Um, I would say there's been times where I'm in the tree, like I've dropped an SD card, and an SD card is a lot harder to find on the ground than it is a VHS tape.
yep,
And you sit there and you're like, oh gosh, why couldn't this be bigger? And then you sit there and you pick it up and you put it in your pocket and you're like, it's kind of nice being that small. It's like, it fits right. I can have a year's worth of footage in my pocket on 20 different SD cards or in my bag, and it's not gonna slow me down walking or anything like that. As a matter of fact, I'm gonna sit there and stress out about, man, I hope there's not a hole in there that I haven't found yet, and then all of a sudden they fall out. Uh,
yeah,
One of our guys, Brandon Chase, uh, he gave me his footage and whatnot that he got when I was sitting there trying to do with what I could with it and whatnot, and he just gave me his camera and his bag and whatnot, and one of the other guys, Ryan, they both have the exact same camera bag, and Brandon's SD cards for his trail cameras were sitting in the front pocket. And he called me up. He goes, "Hey, I'm getting ready to go drop some cameras out. Can you get my SD cards out?" And I'm like, "Yeah, bet, dude." And so I went and I opened up Ryan's camera bag, and there wasn't any SD cards in there. I didn't even bother to think about looking in the other bag because I already had it for like a week or two. And I called him, like,
Yeah.
"Dude, these aren't in here, man." So we're going through the stress and the emotions of like, man, did I lose them? Did he lose them? Where are they at? And he's like, "Dude, those were all of my SD cards, and there was like 20 of them in there."
Yeah.
Like, I'm like, "Dude, I am so sorry." Well, I called him up. I'm like, "Hey, look, I'm done with your camera. I can bring it back to your bag and whatnot." And I went to go grab it up, and I heard something shuffling in there, and I looked up on my shelf, and there's another bag. I'm like, "Dude, no way!" And I opened it up. There they were, and it was like, oh, dude, such a relief. And I called him up like, "You're gonna laugh at this, but I found your cards, and they were in your bag." But I was looking in the wrong bag, man, and it was like this long event of like time of where you're like, "Dude, everything is lost, and it's all on those cards."
Yeah, that's never a good feeling. Luckily, I've never had to personally deal with that. But yeah, there's no better thing to have than an external hard drive and backups.
Right.
100%.
And now because of that little deal that happened, I mean, it's a little deal now, but it was a huge deal then. I took very big precautions to make sure that doesn't happen again, and or major precautions to make sure that doesn't happen again. Because not only was that embarrassing and funny all at the same time, but it was like, dude, like that could have been it. Like if there was, the number one hunting video in the world that would ever hit the platform could have been on that card, and I would have lost it. It would have been like, I can't
Yeah.
believe I just messed that up.
Losing footage is like a bank burning its money.
Dude,
You know,
it
it's currency for sure. So
it absolutely absolutely sucks whenever I've lost footage before, and nothing will make a grown man that hunts and films and produces cry more than losing footage right there, because you can't go, especially like if you happen to make a harvest, you can't go re-kill that animal. You
no,
can't.
no. I
You
mean,
can only recreate so much.
the first thing that we do is when we get back every time, you got dump cards.
Yep.
And you just the thing is too is like you might not lose that card, but it can still corrupt. I mean, and that's one thing you can. It's pretty impressive that you can recover some of the things that you can, as long as you tangibly have the device.
Right.
Uh, my buddies had a drive with some very, very important things on it, like the only copies of some very important things on it go bad. Like, and it was really awful. Was he was showing me his final draft of the project, and he was like, "Hey, you want to watch it?" I'm like, "Yeah, man, let's watch it." And his
Right.
drive crashed. I mean, I've never
No.
seen somebody freak out more. Which rightfully so. I
Right.
mean, but the crazy, they were able to recover everything, everything.
Oh, dude. Thank God. I,
Um,
I haven't had that issue yet, and that it's those are the things that keeps me up at night. Like whenever it comes down to this, it's like, do I have everything in place in case something happens? Do I?
let's try to go back to again. Talk about like VHS cameras. Well, the biggest change that I've seen, even just in the short time that I've been in media, is the cost of storage has gone down exponentially.
It has.
Like, SD cards really aren't that expensive.
No.
I've got the 18 terabyte hard drive that I bought for $500.
Right. And that
Not
would
that
500 bucks would have maybe bought, like, whenever heart backup drives and whatnot would have came out. 500 bucks probably would have bought you like a few gigs.
gigabytes.
Yeah.
Yeah.
You're
And so
talking
like it's
terabytes.
like again, like it's never worth it.
Right.
Just have a copy and then have a backup copy somewhere else. I mean, like you
Right.
have to have that.
Right.
But yeah, no, it can cause a lot of stresses. Luckily, I've just seen other people go through it, and it's been enough for me to not
Yeah. You can
do
feel the
that.
gray hair growing whenever you just sit there and think about it, like, oh boy. Oh boy. Like the guys will be like, "Hey man, you going out today?" But like, "No, bro, it's a little it's raining a little bit, and I don't have no hard blind to go sit in and whatnot." And I don't like to hunt, like there's a drizzle. I'll hunt in a drizzle, but I do not like to hunt when it's raining. One, you know, that rain is going to wash any blood trail away unless you actually physically drop it on the spot or watch where it goes. But two, like, you have so much money invested on that tree, and you really want to go risk it for the biscuit on that one where you might not even get anything, but now you come back and your SD card, which my SD cards, whenever I go out, they still have footage on them. Even though I've got them on my computer and whatnot, they still have the footage on them, and I like to try to keep those. And then I fill them up and I'll go get a new card, and I keep that card, just for the reason of like anything can happen. But if I keep this card in a nice dry spot, it should be good.
Yeah.
But you know, your cameras aren't cheap. Your bow equipment, that's not cheap. And I as a bow tech, I have seen a lot of bows that came in and there's rusty bolts everywhere where you almost got to get a freaking cheater bar just to bust one of them loose. And you can smell the magnesium, man. But dude, it's like, dude, there's a lot of money sitting in that tree, and you're gonna go risk it for the biscuit for a little drizzle.
Man, yeah, I don't know. Like, I'm pretty reckless when it comes to my camera gear, honestly. Like, I, I mean, some of the most fun hunts I've ever had, like, I think to 2020, when I was filming a gentleman that was whitetail, we were hunting really big deer. We had rain and we weren't sitting inside. I can tell you that. So it's
Really?
like, as a cameraman, it's like, I can't just be like, I'm not going, man.
Right?
It's like, figure it out, and as simple as like, I mean, had Walmart bags with me is what I took and
Did
just
you?
cut around them. And you're right, 100%. Like it's probably not the most intelligent thing to do, and there is a lot of money. Like that same hunt, I one of my cameras actually fell from the tree, it slipped
Oh,
off the bark and fell, and it was completely fine. It never
really?
had, but you're talking it fell like 20 feet. But I don't know, like hunting in the rain, like from a hunting standpoint, like especially any time that like you can get a break in the rain,
Right.
you know, 100% I would be in that tree to get that break because they're gonna move.
That'll
Uh,
that'll give you. I'll agree with that. We did that with turkey hunting with my wife last year. That was a freaking blast. But before that break in the rain. But I didn't film any of it. It was all solely husband wife time and with our good buddy Eric. But like if
yeah,
it's if it's like raining, I can't go. It's just like, dude, I'm so worried. Like I said, ruining camera gear and then two losing the animal.
yep, yep, yeah. No, losing the animal one is the hard part. Like taking a shot at a deer with pouring rain coming or during a rain, that'd be a, you know, you'd have to make the decision that you want to make in that situation for sure.
Right.
Um, but luckily I've never been faced with that per se. So
There was one time I remember back before I even got into all this kind of stuff. Um, I needed to go check a camera that I had put on a tree, man, and like there was a couple deer that I was after hardcore, and I was like, dude, I gotta go get that card. I have to go see in order to complete this puzzle so I can move on. And we were facing like 70-mile-an-hour winds and hailstorms coming. I mean, every alarm was going off, and out the door I go. And just before I left, my wife's like, it's getting ready to be like really, really bad. And I'm like, yeah, no, I'm gonna. In my mind, it was like going to be a 2-minute drive, 2-minute walk, 2-minute back, and I'll be back, and the sun will still be shining when I get here. No, it's a 30-minute drive. It's a 35-minute walk from the closest parking area that I can get into. I mean, it was on private land, but I had to go up and down 3 different cornfield hills, and the corn was already, above my head. And so there's no cutting through it to get on down there. And it was a jaunt and a half, and I got probably 20 yards from my camera, and it had come down so bad I couldn't see 3 feet in front of me. Literally, the only thing that I could see was my muddy boot prints coming in, and I had to make the choice of like, well, I'm here. So I ran up to go get it, and I remember looking at my actual trail camera. I'm like, oh, if I open this, it's gonna be so bad. So like I turned around. It was a complete blonde moment. Turned around and walked back to the car, tail tucked in and whatnot, eat my pride. Got home and I'm still dripping, soaking wet. And I come in and she's like, "Well, did you get your camera?" I'm like, "Yeah, nope, sure didn't." I left it on there for more pictures, and she goes, "You gotta be kidding me!" I was like, "I gotta go shower." But I was
love it.
completely drenched, and even after a half-hour drive, I was still dripping. Dude, my seats were soaked.
Yeah, that's a completely different scenario. But speaking of turkey season, my buddy and I went out to Nebraska last year, late in May, and he had actually just killed a bird. We were walking out, and we got caught in a windstorm, rain. Dude, it was insane. I mean, like I don't really know how fast the winds were, but like when you're in Nebraska where we're at, there's nothing. It's just flat.
Right.
You know what I mean? So like we took the full brunt of it. It was a lot of fun, but his bird did not look very good. Um, that's really the only time I've ever been caught in something like that. But it's good memories anyway.
Yeah, it is. I mean, it. If you can't keep it interesting or you can't go and actually try, what can you say?
Yeah.
No.
Now the days it becomes not fun to do is the day that you know probably should stop doing it. But hopefully that day never comes for me.
Right.
I know you with the people that I do, it'd be very, very tough to ever reach that point. So
A buddy of ours, we're talking about rain and wet equipment and all that. Brock, this was at the time that he was still on the show with us when he kind of split off not too long ago. Kind of went to go do his own thing and whatnot, which is absolutely cool. And we talk every day and whatnot. But by the way, we were we went up to some public land that it's like 2,000 acres out up north and whatnot. And we've been here several times. Um, it was him and Garth. They were down the way in front of us, all the way down the hill by the creek. And this creek bed is usually dry, and it's like 15 feet deep. And there's no like steady bank. It's straight down. It's like a bulldozer came in and just carved a freaking straight path. Well, there's just this little itty bitty. I mean, it's like this wide, itty bitty piece of land that goes right on through it. It's solid all the way down, and we get there and it had just rained the past 2 days, and so this creek is full. And if you look at it, it just looks like some puddles in the grass. So you can see grass everywhere. And we kind of knew where the trail was and whatnot. He was stamping on it, and I'm up on top of the hill with Mark, and we're coming on down. And all of a sudden, I just hear a bunch of commotion down there in the water, and I'm like, dude, there's a deer in the water. So I grab up my bow and I grab up an arrow, and I'm like sliding on down the hill a little bit. I'm like, I'm ready for it. And all of a sudden, we hear, "Hey, tell Joe not to come down here because he's not gonna make it." So I'm 5'5", 5'6" on a good day, and Brock is like 5'9", 5'10". He found the trail and then looked back over at Garth, said, "Yeah, we're good." Took one more step and straight down. He had all of his camera equipment, his bow, rangefinder, you name it. Everything was on him. His stand. And he went straight down. Brock can't swim, so he is down. And Garth literally reached in the water, pulled him back up out of it when I. And Brock sent me a picture. His camera's toast, rangefinder's toast, but he's hunting in his boxers in his tree stand, and he's got literally all of his hunting clothes sitting in the tree that they're hanging in, just to try to dry him off. And when I heard Joe ain't gonna make it, I just looked over at Mark and I turned around like, yeah, we gotta go. I had not realized that the man's life was in imminent danger at that point, just seconds before that. Otherwise, I would have definitely gone down there. But it was that was a hoot, man. And that's probably one that sticks out in my mind. Whenever it comes down to like intense, like, hey, we kind of messed up. But that was a good one.
I
Uh,
luckily haven't had any close calls like that. I've fallen out of a stand once wearing a harness. Got lucky there. But
Check the
yeah,
chili ring real quick.
what you say?
Check the chili ring real quick. Pucker up real fast. Oh, bad, dude. How was
That
that?
was
Like, I've never fallen out of a tree, thank God. But I mean, knock on wood. But I've never had
it
that.
was it was wild. I mean, like when was that? 2000. I don't know. 2016 is when it was because it was the year I actually killed the deer. You can't see; he was above me though.
Sure.
We did a hanging hunt that day, and it was a muddy. Had these old, like the older style. You just basically ratcheted this. I think I'm going to call it quick connect. You just slid the stand on it, and I just really did not. It was good, but then when I got in the stand, I moved the platform up a little bit, so it was a little more level.
Sure.
Well, by doing that, that pressure popped it up just a little bit. Didn't notice it when I did it, but then like I stood on the very front edge of the stand, and
Right.
it went from being like this to parallel down, and I just fell. And when I did that, my left arm fell with me, obviously, and I broke my bow hanger out of the tree, ripped it out,
Oh
caught
shit.
caught my bow. I was kind of just sitting there hanging, and luckily hunting with somebody. My buddy Collins is there, and he's like, just kind of like comes around the tree and is like, "Are you good?" And I was like, "Not really. Dude, can you take this bow real quick?" Was able to get around back on the stick and put the stand back up, and just had to hold my bow the rest of the hunt. But
Right.
it was, I don't know. I'm never hanging hunting like you're always, it's dangerous. I mean,
It
it can be
is.
risky if you don't do it smartly. But um, luckily, I was wearing a harness. It's never worth not wearing a harness to me. I'll
No.
always have. So
I, I'll wear a harness. I'll wear a harness every time. I prefer to be able to walk, and I've heard stories like this and whatnot. I've got close friends and whatnot that like I know a guy he fell and he's had to have multiple back and neck surgeries due to that. And I mean, lucky for him, he's still walking and hunting, but dude lives in pain every day.
mhm.
And it's like, dude, it's not worth it. But I've always sat there, and you're wearing a harness and you got those two straps. You go from 0 to 100 right now when you fall. I'm like, that's gotta hurt. That. There's got to be some side effects that don't feel good.
Yeah, I don't necessarily remember it hurting. I don't know. Like never. I distinctively I can't remember it being like that. But it. I don't know. It just was like a very eye opening. Like wow, you
Right.
can't. You know what I mean? And like, there's a million other things that can go wrong. Like your strap could break, or you just slip on some, ice, or I don't know,
Right.
whatever it is. But um, that's definitely one that sticks out in my head. There's no doubt about that.
Right. Do you were you guys filming at that time or
Yeah.
did when something like that happens, do you just look up and go like, did you get that?
No, I don't think I did in that moment. And we did not have as many different angles back then,
Right.
unfortunately. But I'll tell you what. When you say that, like, I wish we had the stuff that we did in 2016. We saw some really cool stuff that year. That
Right.
looking back, like, pretty mediocre how we captured it.
Right.
you know, but
So, here pretty quickly, we're gonna have to cut her off. But when we're etching up on 2022 turkey season, man, can you give us any sort of insight of what the 2022 turkey season looks like for you and Drury Outdoors? Like, how many? Uh, well, for one, do you gonna be able to get out there and get yourself a turkey?
I hope so. I mean, right now my main priority is this television series. I mean,
Right.
work will always come first.
Right.
But you can definitely expect to see a series called Turkey Season 22. It'll
Bet.
be on YouTube, be on Deercast. It'll be available either spot. Um, I know Mark's got a long list of things that he's hoping to accomplish with a lot of people. I think him and Taylor actually go to Texas this weekend
Oh, it's
to go
crazy.
hunt. It's kicking off. I mean, there will be a video from that trip. I'm certain of it. And then hopefully, if I can get what I need to get done between now and next Thursday, I'll be going to Nebraska for the opener for archery. So
That's awesome, man. Have you ever been to Nebraska to hunt turkey before?
I want to say the last 4 years, opening day every year.
Nice, dude.
Yeah,
I, I'm just gonna go buy one from Hy-Vee this year because I can't shoot turkey, hit turkey, call turkey, whatever. But I've always wanted it. They call Nebraska like the turkey state of the nation.
I don't know necessarily that. There's definitely a healthy population of birds, and you can get into a lot of different subspecies. Depending where you're at in the state. Like in the very northwest corner. That was the first year we ever went out there. It's more of your quote unquote pure strain Merriam, if there's such a thing as a pure strain at this point.
Sure.
Uh, Smaller bird, you know, weaker gobble, but just beautiful. Almost close to that white colored tip. Um, and then where we've been hunting recently, these last 3 or I don't even know when the first time I went out there is, but the places we've gone the last couple of years is like you could have in the flock, you could have a bird come in that looks like an Eastern. You could have one that comes in with a Rio type look to them, all the way to a Merriam's type of bird.
That's crazy.
Kind of like a melting pot. It's so fun. I mean, I love bow hunting turkeys. There's a lot of birds out there getting permissions, not as hard as people might make it seem to be, especially in the state of Nebraska. And I don't know if it's harder during the gun season. You know what I mean? Like that could be something that it might be. Like
Right.
when we go out, there's not a whole lot of people, fortunately. So, um, we hopefully will leave that Thursday. Opens up on Friday. Unfortunately, the guy that I've gone out there with every year, he's got a family, and so he's typically not able to just leave during the week.
Sure.
Well, this year I'm like, dude, it's finally opening day fell on a Friday. He's like, I
Right.
got a wedding weekend. I'm like, dude, come on.
Dude, let's roll.
So hopefully we'll be able to get back out there with him. But you know, hopefully I'll get enough time turkey hunt. I mean, I'm sure I'll get out there a couple of times, but you know, this comes first so that I
Right.
can continue to do the job that I do.
Absolutely. Do you plan on, obviously with everything going on, do you plan on doing any kind of bow hunt for turkeys here in Iowa, or are you going after them with shotgun?
I more than likely I'll do both. I don't know.
There you
Just
go.
the flexibility of that tag is hard to beat.
It is, dude. You get one tag for those that don't know. For when it comes down to Iowa, there's 4 seasons. They're all consecutive. If you want to go gun, you can only go 1 and 4, or I'm sorry, 1 and 3, or 2 and 4 with gun. Um, but if you go with a bow, that tag is good for all 4 seasons, and you can just continue to go. You don't have to worry about buying another tag, or you don't have to worry about, oh crap, I can't hunt this week but it's going to be
Well,
like a freaking
there's
best week.
the each season has an allotment of days per season.
Right.
First shorter than second or third or fourth. Um, and with the bow, if I can have the opportunity to shoot two in the same day or two in the same week or whatever,
Right.
but really to me the flexibility of when I can go. You know what I mean? Like there might be a day that pops up where it's like, oh, I have birds to hunt on the lease, or you know what I mean. So
Right.
uh, I haven't quite decided yet. Obviously, I haven't put camera. I need to put cameras out on my farm or go listen because I assume there's some turkeys around. I didn't get a whole lot of pictures of them during the fall, but you would think that it would set up for some birds to be in the vicinity. So
Right.
I don't know. Turkey season is just it's a nice break because it's not as I don't want to say it's not as serious. There's a very pretty sacred tradition. When it comes to turkey hunting, and
Right.
but it definitely is not as I don't know what the right word is. It's not like you're hunting for one turkey.
Right.
You know,
Right. Any tom will do. Any long
all
beard will do.
good.
That's
So,
right. Doesn't have to be like, oh man, I've been chasing this tom for like 4 years, and yeah, no,
yeah,
it's definitely a little bit less pressure when you're like targeting. You're targeting a tom. We're
yep,
targeting bucks during the season, but we're targeting specific bucks.
yep.
This tom comes out, hey dude, you will do. Boom. Like,
I my big thing for this turkey season, like if I didn't shoot one bird, but I still got to go hunt, fit in some time to go watch Mark call or some of the people that he hunts with
sure.
call, or just to learn from them in the woods, that would be enough for me. I mean,
Right.
there's for his Mark is obviously one of the best and most successful deer hunters in the world, and so for him to say I would give up deer hunting over turkeys,
Ooh.
I mean, I would love to see. I would love to see a couple of spring mornings unfold
Right.
in
No kidding.
wherever. So hopefully, again, that's a nice thing. Is like it's all right here. I just gotta get it done. You know what I mean? And if I want to
Right.
go do those things, well, working a lot is the way to do it. So,
Right. That's crazy,
but
man. Dude, we look forward to seeing turkey season 2022 from you guys, and I anytime that I see a video of yours, Josh, I'm always willing and ready to watch it and freaking stoked because your skill of editing, man, it's it's up here. So I mean, I have to absolutely tell you, call it kiss ass or whatever. I have to tell you, I definitely idolize your talent, man. And
It,
you can tell you put a lot to her, and I'm ready for it.
man, I appreciate it. I appreciate anybody that's ever said that, and every time I hear it, it just makes me have to say thank you to everybody that I got to work with. I mean, that's really all the product of getting to work with some very successful people, some very smart people, and some most importantly people that are willing to help. You
Right.
know, that's I didn't get to do, or I'm not where I'm at right now because of me. Maybe kind of, but like at the end of the day, you need people to help you along the way. And I've
Right.
been very, very lucky to have that.
Absolutely. Well, unfortunately, that is all that we have time for today, folks. Again, Josh, thanks for joining us today. Everybody that was able to watch and whatnot, wasn't a whole lot on this one, but but it is what it is. It'll be uploaded on YouTube, and everybody can watch forever. For everybody that was here today, thank you for joining. Thank you for commenting and whatnot. Make sure you go head on over to Drury Outdoors if you haven't already. Hit that subscribe button. Link in the description below. Go on over to Outdoors Obsessions YouTube channel. Hit that subscribe, turn the bell on. Also, for today and tomorrow only, we have our swag line available. It's going to be a great merch line. Hurry up, get in there while you can. Merch is only available up till midnight tomorrow, and then we might run it again or not. But Josh, again, thanks for joining us, man, and congrats again on your DoD deal and whatnot. And we look forward to seeing turkey season and deer season coming from you, buddy. We cannot wait.
Appreciate it, man. Thank you so much.
Absolutely. Y'all take care and